Just wait for a moment, madam. I will say start.
Okay.
Ready, madam? Start the class.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I am J. Seetha, JL Botany, PS or JC Chouttuppal. I am MSc Botany, MA English and MA. I have vast experience in teaching field starting from 10th, inter, degree and B.Ed colleges. All these days my experience is different, that is taught in the presence of students and in the classroom, but due to this pandemic situation, taking Zoom classes and webinar is a new experience. I'll try maximum to do justice. Then coming to the our botany lesson, I have been allotted internal structure of flowering plants, but histology, meristematic tissues, tissue systems, leaves internal structure and secondary growth are deleted. So I have to handle anatomy of dicotyledonous stem, monocotyledonous stem, dicot root and monocot root. First of all, what are dicots and what are monocots? Dicots are the plants which possess the seeds with two cotyledons and roots with a taproot type of root system and leaves with reticulate venation and flowers pentamerous and tetramerous. And examples for these dicotyledonous plants are mango, that is Mangifera indica, then sunflower Helianthus annuus, and China rose Hibiscus rosa sinensis. And coming to the monocots, monocots possess the seeds with one cotyledon, fibrous type of root system, and leaves with parallel venation, and flowers, trimerous flowers. And examples are the plants belonging to grass family, that is Graminae or Poaceae. Then examples paddy, Oryza, then wheat, Triticum, maize, Zea maize. Then study of external characters of plants is known as plant morphology. The study of internal structures of plants is plant anatomy. Now let us study the internal structure of dicot stem. So that is the primary structure only, because secondary growth is deleted. Then we'll go to the actual slide. See, coming to the objectives, you all joined intermediate BPC course to become doctors or agricultural scientists or veterinary scientists or dentists. So that is your aim. So if you want to achieve the goal, you must have some objectives like that. Here uh, for learning dicot stem, there are some objectives, that is internal structure of dicot stem. To understand the primary structure of dicot stem, primary structure, how it will be and what are the tissues present in dicot stem, then tissue differentiation in dicot stem. So there is differentiation of different tissues. So they don't possess only single type of tissue, different tissues are there, so we have to study that. Then vascular bundles of dicot stem. Vascular bundles, they contain xylem, phloem and cambium. Xylem helps in the transport of water and minerals, whereas phloem is the food conducting tissue and cambium produces new cells. Then another objective is how dicot stem is different from monocot stem. So there are differences between dicot stem and monocot stem also. Then how stem is different from root. These are the learning objectives. Then coming to the primary anatomy of dicot stem, if you want to study the primary structure, you have to take the cross section of the stem. So when you observe this cross section under a microscope, you will find the tissues like this. The outermost one is epidermis. Then next one is cortex, again which comprises of hypodermis, outer cortex, inner cortex, endodermis. Then the central part is steel, which contains pericycle, vascular bundles, medullary rays, pith. See, all together from cortex to the pith, this is known as ground tissue. Then, going to the next slide, epidermis is the outermost layer that you can see with the arrow mark. It is shown. Outermost layer of the cross section of the dicot stem is epidermis. It is composed of parenchymatous cells, and they are arranged in single layer. It contains single layer of cells, and they are closely packed without intercellular spaces. Intercellular spaces means actually in parenchyma they are round walled, and in between the cells you find some spaces, but these spaces are lacking in epidermis. Then closely packed cells with tangential walls thick, and due to the deposition of fatty substance known as cutin, outermost layer, a separate layer is formed known as cuticle. And epidermis of young stem contains stomata also. This cuticle is the protective layer. It protects the inner parts, and stomata help in gaseous exchange. Then if we study epidermis in detail, that is on the surface of the stem you find some multicellular hairs. That is, the hairs are not unicellular as in root hairs. Here multicellular, they contain many cells. Then they are known as trichomes, usually present over epidermis. If you see the plants, Tridax, procumbens and sunflower, you find some hair-like structures. Those are trichomes. And in herbs, epidermis remains throughout its life cycle. Herbs means the soft stemmed plants. Then in woody plants, epidermis is replaced by bark after secondary growth. In big trees, they become woody, that stem becomes woody, and you find some scaly structures known as bark. Then coming to the functions of epidermis, protection. It protects the inner parts. Epidermis is the layer, outermost layer, and protects the inner parts. And just above the epidermis you find a thin layer, cuticle. It prevents water loss. Of course, water loss means transpiration. Due to transpiration, excess of water from the plant body, it takes the form of vapor and escapes into the atmosphere. So that is prevented by the presence of cuticle. And stomata in stem facilitate gaseous exchange. Gaseous exchange means that for respiration the plants absorb oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. And for photosynthesis also they take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. And trichomes and hairs provide protection. In what way they provide? They protect the plant. That is, all herbivorous animals eat these soft stemmed plants, herbs, because the herbivore animals eat them. So in order to protect themselves, these trichomes protect the plant from being eaten away by the herbivorous animals. The next part is cortex, and it is shown with an arrow mark. You can see the tissue inner to the epidermis is cortex, and in some plants cortex is simple and undifferentiated. That is, in some plants it is differentiated again, but in some plants it is simple, having a common tissue without any differentiation. But in majority of the plants, the cortex is differentiated into 4 zones: hypodermis, outer cortex, inner cortex, and endodermis. Then coming to the hypodermis, the layer just below, hypo means below, the layer just below the epidermis is known as hypodermis. It is collenchymatous. Collenchymatous means having round walled cells and having some spaces, and the corners of the cells are thickened. So such type of tissue is known as collenchyma. So it is hypodermis is composed of collenchymatous tissue. Then compactly packed, that means without any gap, without any intercellular spaces, they are compactly packed. In stem with ridges and furrows, collenchyma mainly occurs below ridges. In some plants they show ridges and furrows. Outside itself we can see, and collenchyma mainly occurs below the ridges. Then in very young stem, collenchyma is poorly developed. Usually chloroplasts are absent in hypodermis, and rarely collenchyma contains chloroplast, then it is known as chlorenchyma, and its function is photosynthesis. In xerophytes, that means the plants which live in deserts are called as xerophytes. Hypodermis is sclerenchymatous, and it is again a strong tissue which helps in uh, protection and also against winds and other things, and also it prevents water loss also. Then, coming to the functions of hypodermis, it provides mechanical support. Then, in plants with secondary thickening, hypodermal cells only, they give rise to cork cambium, which cuts off cells both inside and outside to form the bark and secondary tissues. Then, outer cortex tissue inner to the hypodermis is known as outer cortex, and here the cells are chlorenchymatous. Chlorenchymatous means they contain chloroplast and involve in photosynthesis. And loosely packed cells with intercellular spaces are seen. And in xerophytes, outer cortical cells form palisade-like tissue. Then coming to the outer cortex, the function is photosynthesis. That is, they perform the function of photosynthesis and prepare the food substances. Then inner cortex, next part, it is shown with arrow marks, you can observe. Then the cells are parenchymatous. They are loosely packed with intercellular spaces, and function is storage of carbohydrates. After photosynthesis, carbohydrates are produced. They are stored in this inner cortex. Then coming to the cortex only, in hydrophytes and xerophytes the arrangement is somewhat different. In hydrophytes, cortex is with plenty of air cavities in between, which is known as aerenchyma. This aerenchyma helps in gaseous exchange and also provides buoyancy to the plants. Hydrophytes means plants which live in water. See, there is danger of decay of the leaves and stems because they live in water. So, to prevent that, this aerenchyma helps the plants to float on the surface of water. So, in that way, they escape decaying from water. Then it helps in gaseous exchange also. That is again for respiration and other things. And sclerenchymatous patches occur in the cortex of eucalyptus, eugenia, and ficus. See, sclerenchymatous patches means they give some mechanical support, and secretory cavities occur in cortex of eucalyptus. Of course, about eucalyptus, you know, it is a tree, a tall tree belonging to the family Myrtaceae. Myrtaceae means Gava family, and resin canals occur in the cortex of anacardium. Anacardium is nothing but your cashew nut daily which you consume in your sweets and other things. Anacardium belongs to the family Anacardiaceae and a relative of mango. And here these resin canals, they ooze out a substance which has got some medicinal importance, and at the same time it causes some damage to skin also. The workers who work in this cashew nut factory, they suffer from blisters caused by this oozing out substance, that resins. Then latissiferous cells occur in the cortex of latex producing plants. Here latex means you might have seen Calotropis plants, that is Gileadu in Telugu. So when you pluck the leaf, a milk-like substance comes out which is known as latex. So latissiferous cells, they produce this latex in these plants, Calotropis. It belongs to the family Asclepiadaceae, and the members of that Vinca rosea and Nerium, they belong to Apocynaceae. In those plants you find latex due to the presence of latissiferous tubules. Then next part, coming to the functions of cortex, they provide mechanical support, and during secondary growth also hypodermal cells give rise to cork cambium, for the bark formation. See, because this cork cambium is developed from hypodermal cells, it cuts off cells both inside and outside, and it is known as fascicular cambium. In that way, the stem growth increases its girth, that is width, it is increased. So small plant becomes a big tree. Then chlorine-chimatous cells in the outer cortex, they perform the function of photosynthesis, that is preparation of food. And parenchymatous cells of inner cortex can store carbohydrates. Then cortical cells also store some gastric substances. Resin canals, latex canals occur in cortex. These are the functions of cortex. Then let us move to the next slide, and that is endodermis. It is shown with arrow marks, you can see. The innermost layer of cortex is endodermis. Then it is very distinct. Distinct means very clear in pteridophytes. Pteridophytes means ferns and other plants belong to, in morphology you learnt about pteridophytes. Then not distinct in gymnosperms and angiosperms. Then endodermal cells accumulate starch grains also. That is why this endodermis tissue is known as starch sheath. If distinct endodermis uniseriate, that means it is present in only one layer with barrel shaped cells. The cells of endodermis have the shape of a barrel. Barrel means which are a container which is used for filling crude oil and other things. Then cells with parenchymatous are compactly arranged. Let us move to the next slide. Functions of endodermis. The exact function of endodermis is not known. They do not allow the passage of water, then can store food materials as starch grains. Then the innermost part of the stem is stele. Stele is the central vascular cylinder, and vascular cylinder means because it contains vascular bundles, it is known as vascular cylinder. It is composed of 4 components: pericycle, vascular bundle, medullary rays, and pith. Then coming to the pericycle, it is shown with the arrow marks, you can see. Then outermost layer of the stele is pericycle, located next to the endodermis, that is just below the endodermis you find the pericycle. Show wide variation, and in some plants pericycle is absent. Usually it is multi-layered. Multi means many layers are there. It is made up of 3 or more layers, and pericycle may be completely parenchymatous. Sometimes it may be sclerenchymatous, forming the bundle cap, and sometimes a mixture of parenchyma and sclerenchyma or alternating bands are seen. That means one layer parenchyma, one layer sclerenchyma, that is alternating bands. So coming to the actual vascular bundles, vascular tissues, these are also known as fascicles and located inner to the pericycle. Then the vascular bundles, here in the ground plan you see, it is seen under dissecting microscope like that. So the vascular bundles are arranged in 2 rows, and those rounded structures marked are vascular bundles, and down you can see the picture, the diagram which is seen under the compound microscope. So located inner to the pericycle and developed from the procambium. So in between xylem and phloem you find a layer known as cambium. It produces, procambium produces xylem tissue inside and phloem tissue outside, and number of vascular bundles is limited, so from 6 to 8 bundles are seen. Then they are arranged as a broken ring. Broken ring means here and there you find some interruptions, not in the form of a ring. Then vascular bundle composed of xylem and phloem, and xylem is placed inner to the cambium and phloem is placed to the outer to the cambium. That is, in between xylem and phloem you find cambium. Then coming to the description of vascular bundles, in dicot stem, vascular bundles are described as conjoint, collateral and open. Conjoint means xylem and phloem are placed together. Then open means when the cambium is present, the vascular bundle is described as open. And xylem endark, that means protoxylem faces towards the center and the metaxylem faces towards the periphery. That means again about protoxylem and metaxylem you will come across in the next slide. Collateral, usual type. One patch of xylem and one patch of phloem are seen. Bicollateral means a median patch of xylem laying in between two phloem patches. When two phloem patches are there, in between you find xylem tissue. So that is described as bicollateral situation. That is seen in the members of the family Cucurbitaceae. That means cucumber, such plants, watermelon. That type of arrangement is seen. Bicollateral condition is seen. Then coming to the vascular bundle, main components are xylem. So xylem, of course, you all know that it is the water conducting tissue. So xylem vessels helps in conduction of water and minerals. You all know that water is absorbed from the soil by the roots of the plant, and roots conduct water to the stem, and stem in turn conducts water to the leaves. Then it composed of tracheids, vessels, fibers and parenchyma. And xylem is also differentiated into protoxylem and metaxylem. See, proto means first. The first formed xylem is known as protoxylem. So arranged towards the center, that is towards pith, and very less amount of tracheids elements are seen in xylem, and large amount of parenchyma is seen, and tracheids elements with narrow lumen and annular or spiral thickening is seen. So this protoxylem and metaxylem in the slide are shown with arrow marks. You can notice the metaxylem vessels are big in size, whereas protoxylem is small in size and facing metaxylem facing towards periphery and protoxylem facing towards the center. Then coming to the metaxylem, formed after protoxylem and more tracheids elements than protoxylem, and cells with a large lumen. Lumen means inside you find the cavity, that is known as lumen, and cells with reticulate or pitted thickening. Reticulate means some network like, and arranged towards the exterior. Metaxylem vessels are facing towards periphery. Then coming to the functions of xylem. So conduction of water. See, as I told you, the roots of the plants absorb water from the soil. Then the roots, the xylem vessels transport that water and minerals to the stem, and stem in turn it supplies water to the leaves where photosynthesis is performed. Then conduction of minerals, not only water, only with water the plants cannot grow well, so minerals are also necessary. Minerals are in dissolved state in the soil itself. Minerals are found which are known as macronutrients and micronutrients. About them you will learn in physiology in the second year, and they provide mechanical support also, because being strong this support that is they give mechanical support also. And xylem parenchyma stores food materials. Then next structure is phloem. Of course you all know that phloem is a food conducting tissue of the vascular bundle. It contains sieve tubes, companion cells and parenchyma and fiber. Sieve means in Telugu also we call it as jalada. So in the form of that having some pores, sieve cells are seen in phloem. Then companion cell means which establishes some connection with the sieve cells is known as companion cells. And parenchyma, of course, you know, having some round walled cells with intercellular spaces. and some fibers, phloem fibers are present. And phloem is also differentiated into protophylum and metaphylum. Proto means first formed and arranged towards the periphery is protophylum, and metaphylum differentiated after protophylum, located near the cambium. That means cambium means just above the xylem you find cambium, and above the cambium you find this metaphloem. Then medullary rays are there. You can see them with arrow marks in the diagram. It is shown, also called as pith ray. It occurs in between, these medullary rays occur in between vascular bundles, then composed of parenchymatous cells, and cells are radially elongated. Radial arrangement means what? That is from center of the pith and in between vascular bundles, they go in the radial manner, then composed of parenchymatous cells, and cells are radially elongated, somewhat elongated, that is longer than breadth. Then some rectangular cells we can say. And during secondary growth also, cells of the medullary rays give rise to interfascicular cambium, that in between vascular bundles fascicular cambium is formed, and it gets joined with the cambium of the vascular bundles, and cambial ring is formed for secondary growth. Then it cuts off cells inside xylem and outside phloem. In this way the girth of the plant increases. And coming to the functions of the medullary ray, it allows radial transport of water. Radial transport is also necessary. The xylem of the roots absorb water from the soil, and not only upward movement, if we want to supply the plant, it should supply water to the leaves also. So radial transport is necessary. It provides interfascicular cambium during secondary growth. So during secondary growth also it helps. So the central part is known as pith. In some plants, pith is replaced by a large air cavity called pith cavity. Then coming to the functions of pith, storage of food materials. So then coming to the so this is over. So this pith is also called as medulla, located towards the inner side of the vascular bundle, and the exact central portion of the stem is known as pith, and mostly it is parenchymatous. Then parenchyma may be loosely arranged. Sometimes wall thickenings also occur, and cell of outer region smaller and inner region are larger. Okay, so this let us have recapitulation of this the structure of this dicot stem. That is the outmost layer is epidermis, which is the protective layer, and it has trichomes as the which help in protection, that is protect the plant from being eaten away by the herbivores, and their epidermis is single layered and compactly arranged cells. Next one is endodermis, again which comprises of cortex, then outer cortex, inner cortex, endodermis, all these tissues which perform different functions. Then coming to the hypodermis also, you find aerenchyma, chlorenchyma, and in desert plants, which is multicellular. Then the innermost layer of the cortex is endodermis, and it protects the vascular bundles. Then you learnt about the steel, that is which contains pericycle and vascular bundles. Then medullary rays and pith. So then again steel contains pericycle. Then vascular bundles comprises of xylem and phloem, and xylem is of two types, metaxylem and protoxylem, and xylem is the food conducting tissue, and cambium produces new cells to produce xylem and phloem again. Then vascular bundles in dicot stem are described as conjoint, collateral, open, and endark condition. And conjoint means xylem and phloem, they are together form a bundle. Then when the cambium is present, the vascular bundle is described as open, and xylem position is endark, that is protoxylem faces towards the center, and metaxylem faces towards the periphery, and collateral condition means a patch of xylem and one patch of phloem are present. Bicollateral means xylem is present in between two phloem patches, and bicollateral vascular bundles are characteristic feature of cucurbitaceae. Pardon? Hello? 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 Pardon? Shall I continue, madam?
Ma'am, continue, ma'am. Completed, madam. It's there, my class.
Okay, okay.
Continue,
Okay.
madam.
Okay, okay. Then, then coming to the steel contains vascular bundles, and about xylem, it conducts water and minerals. Then this composed of tracheids, vessels, fibers, and parenchyma. And xylem is differentiated into protoxylem and metaxylem. Then protoxylem, proto means first formed part of xylem, arranged towards the center, and very less amount of tracheiry elements are seen, and large amount of parenchyma is seen, and tracheiry elements with narrow lumen. Then annular and spiral thickenings are seen. Then coming to the metaxylem, formed after protoxylem, and more tracheiry elements are present than protoxylem. Then cells with large lumen means a cavity. Then cells with reticulate or pitted thickening, reticulate means again net like. Then they are arranged towards the exterior. Then coming to the functions of xylem, conduction of water and conduction of minerals, and provide mechanical support. Xylem parenchyma, that is, it stores food materials. Then vascular bundle, next part is phloem. Phloem is the food conducting tissue of the vascular bundle. It composed of sieve tubes, companion cells, parenchyma, and fiber. And phloem is also differentiated into protophlloem and metaphlloem. Protophlloem is the first formed and arranged towards periphery, and metaphlloem is differentiated after protophyllum, located towards the cambium. Then coming to the medullary rays, these are also known as pith rays, occurs in between the vascular bundles composed of parenchymatous cells. They are radially elongated, that means they are rectangular in shape. During secondary growth, cells of the medullary rays give rise to interfascicular cambium, and these medullary rays, coming to the functions, allow radial transport of water. That is not only upward movement of water, so radial transport is also necessary, which is aided by medullary rays. They provide interfascicular cambium also during secondary growth. So medullary rays produce interfascicular cambium, which joins with the cambium of the vascular bundles, forming the cambial ring, which helps in secondary growth. And the last part, that is in the central part, is pith. In some plants, pith is replaced by a large air cavity called pith cavity. And coming to the functions of pith, storage of food materials. Then pith is also known as medulla, located towards the inner side of the vascular bundle and exact central portion of the stem. And pith is mostly parenchymatous. Then parenchyma may be loosely arranged, sometimes wall thickenings also seen, and cells of the outer region are smaller and inner region are larger. So with this, today's topic has come to an end. Thank you very much. Yes, you know.